Sam Mita was born and raised in the Northland. After spending a career with the Air Force, he's content with publishing a newsletter for retirees and actively helping them out. Where the new VA clinic is located doesn't make a difference to him. It's only an additional 10-minute drive over the bridge.
We don't care. We want it here. We don't care. We're not fighting Superior for it. And we hope Superior isn't fighting us for it. Wherever the VA determines to put it, it'll go in Duluth or Superior. So it'll be a twin ports we'll all benefit from. This is federal money. This is not state monies.
The retired vet community seems to be growing, or at least more visible. There are many reasons for that.
The ones I've talked to, they're here for a number of reasons. The quality of life. I've talked to some that came back because they still have children in school because they are in their early 40s and they like the education system.
The Base Exchange is one place where business has boomed because of retirees. $1.5 million of business is done here a year. 70% of the customers are retired. Business is even better than when the Air Force Base was in Duluth.
Yes, we've actually increased sales about 25% since the Air Base has left.
The Base Exchange here supports a variety of people from different outfits. Now with the VA clinic coming into the Twin Ports, one more service will be added. Lori Kretz, TV6 News.
People in this part of Wisconsin don't bother too much with seat belts. Statistics show northwestern Wisconsin among the lowest in the use of restraints, with only about 26% buckling up. But authorities say Wisconsin citizens have a reputation for abiding by the law, and when they become aware of the new seatbelt regulations, they're confident most will comply.
We as members of the law enforcement community will be doing our best to help ensure that as many of those people as possible are wearing seatbelts.
The law calls on everyone, resident and those just passing through, to wear a seatbelt. All passengers sitting in a seat equipped with a belt must wear it, and children under 2 must be in a federally approved child restraint seat. Police Chief Robert Bennett feels the short-haul trips may give the most problems.
We will have problems with secondary enforcement on people going to grocery stores, driving to work 3 blocks, and any short trips. However, it is now an enforceable violation, and the police department, when violations do take place, will be mandated to enforce the usage.
This new seatbelt law is referred to as secondary enforcement because authorities won't stop you for not wearing a restraint. But if you are stopped for another violation, you can be fined $10 for failure to buckle up. When that fine is added to court and other costs, authorities say it will cost you more than $30. Although the law goes into effect tomorrow, authorities in northwest Wisconsin don't plan to enforce it other than to give warnings for about 60 days. After that, they feel citizens should be aware of the new measure, and the crackdown will begin. Barbara Riles, TV6 News.
We think it's critical before expending any further funds or to look towards the finalization of our arrangement to pay back our half of the initial obligation, which would be something over $200,000, that we be assured that that's not only a temporary location but a permanent one. And we just think that's good fiscal responsibility, and we should think the city would have the same concern.
The Duluth City Council took on the task of deciding if a current ordinance regarding payment of delinquent water and gas bills should be changed. The ordinance allows the Water and Gas Department to bill landlords should a tenant fall behind on payments. Many landlords turned out to speak against the law, saying collection of these bills from tenants is next to impossible.
Anybody on the council has ever tried to collect a water and gas bill along with their rent during the month of January, February, or March, it's almost impossible. You're not going, if that tenant happens to be a low or moderate income person, you are not ever going to collect your water and gas bill from them.
Tenants have a different story. They say low and moderate income residents could not afford security deposits for the utilities.
My experience with the gas bills for low-income people through the course of a year indicates to me that these deposits would equal $300 or more in very many cases. The Energy Assistance Program, which is designed to help low-income people pay their fuel bills, could not help people pay these deposits.
Other tenants went on to say that there are those who are irresponsible, but they should not be penalized for the actions of a select few. Brian Allen, TV6 News.
Cooking something up with
The entrance to the clinic will be built between two wings not being used by the hospital. The structure will connect what used to be the pediatric section with the old medical surgery wing. Though sketches show the clinic will be attached to the hospital, it will have what planners call its own identity.
They'll have their own parking, they'll have their own entrance and exit to Tower Avenue, and it was important to them to have their identity, but at the same time, they're going to be right on adjacent to our hospital and our healthcare campus.
The hospital has been able to provide the requested 22,000 square feet by reorganizing some sections. Today, the hospital board provided a tour to show how it will be done. With the exception of supply space, service quarters and rooms will all be on one floor at the request of the VA. The clinic will serve some 20,000 patients per year. Though yesterday's news was a morale booster for the city, it was even better news for the hospital's new executive.
Being a new administrator in town, I feel like I've kind of been a pinch runner that's been asked to go into second base in the top of the ninth inning, and our best batter is up to bat. So all the work really was done before I got here.
Foss says the clinic will enhance the hospital, and that, he says, combined with the facilities already in Duluth, will make the Twin Ports an excellent option for medical care. In Superior, Ann Kavanaugh, TV6 News.
Senate confirmation before the end of the year. Robin Lloyd, NBC News at the White House.
So far, it's been great. We just returned from a sales trip, and we've got some great news, I think, that'll be coming forth shortly regarding several major conventions that'll be coming into the Duluth area, utilizing the new center.
Unabated. There's a lot of concern, and that, I guess, takes first place, a lot of concern about the state of Soviet-American relations.
Our version of human rights, or what we usually refer to when we mention human rights, is relatively narrow.
I think he's trying to present an image, and this is a very conscious effort to build an image. He's trying to present an image of a modern Soviet leader. And this is, to me, the key thing. He's the first modern Soviet leader.
Society, through its government, is, as I say, a broader conception of human rights, and again, one that was much, much lower than ours. It's still a developing society.
Seems like a pretty good man. I don't know. Seems like he's trying to make the Soviet Union a lot better, you know, so we don't fight or anything, I guess.
The pilot of this Piper Seminole, flying from the Twin Cities to North Dakota, certainly hadn't intended to spend 2 hours on the side of Highway 194. About 9:30 this morning, the plane apparently ran out of gas. It was forced to make an emergency landing on the road just north of Duluth.
All I can say is that I heard an aircraft at one point coming through Saginaw here. I came across the turn here, and the plane was already down at that point.
There were 4 people aboard. The pilot had picked up 3 friends in Ashland before continuing to Minot. One engine of the plane failed about 30 miles west of Duluth. The pilot turned around and tried to land at the Duluth airport, but his second engine went out before he could get there. No one was injured in the landing. Federal Aviation Administration officials say the pilot did a good job in getting to the ground safely after he learned he was in trouble. FAA officials inspected the plane for nearly an hour looking for additional problems.
It appears that there's no fuel in the gas tanks. When we get to the airport, we will probably do some more investigation on the matter, but we're going to give the owner or pilot, whoever it may be, permission to move the aircraft out of here at this time.
The plane was allowed to fly back to the Duluth airport where the inspection continued. FAA officials say it will take up to 3 months to complete a full investigation. At that time, it will be determined if any disciplinary action will be taken in connection with this incident. On Highway 194, Julie Howard, TV6 News.
It's full steam ahead for the shipping of paper from the Lake Superior paper mill. This ribbon cutting today was held to send off 140 tons of paper to Illinois and Tennessee.
Shipping paper now today to our customers means we're doing this now on a daily basis. And so we're able to go to the market with startup tonnage and start generating some revenues for our business.
That revenue should mount up fast as the paper mill builds to full production, 240,000 tons of paper yearly. The first year's production has already been sold. This is what the paper looks like. It'll be used for newspaper and magazine inserts. Today's shipment brings to 4,000 tons the amount of paper that's been shipped from this plant. And those shipments are well ahead of schedule, a combination of luck and a skilled labor force.
We feel very comfortable with the position we're in right now, you know, it's certainly better to be 3 weeks ahead of schedule than 3 weeks behind.
The paper mill is still in the startup stages. Today's shipment is not the highest quality paper to be produced here. That should come by the end of the year.
Fitkers on the Lake Shopping Complex may have a new owner if a Minneapolis-based bank takes the center into receivership. Brewery Limited Partnerships, the parent company of Fitkers, still owes over $100,000 in property taxes for 1987 and a loan payment from July of this year. The loan agreement between First Bank and Brewery Limited says if the company doesn't pay on its property taxes or its loan, that constitutes default. The default allows First Bank to ask that the property be placed in a receivership. Officials at First Bank would not comment on the status of the loan, nor the speculation surrounding the possible receivership. Of the 22 partners who make up Brewery Limited Partnerships, those contacted would not comment on the situation. First Bank has asked the Bowman Corporation be named as the receiver and take over management of the shopping complex. Brian Allen, TV6 News.
Super One in Duluth made the changes on its work schedules this morning. It's just one of the many grocery stores in our area gearing up to take advantage of a deal closed today. The new arrangement with the Retail Clerks Union allows any grocery store in this area with a unionized staff to stay open on Sundays. Prior to this, the union had only agreed to a 6-day contract for its rank and file. The manager of Duluth Super One is delighted.
For a lot of the stores, it'll be very good for their business, particularly this store with the mall with a new addition to the mall, with the new mall being built alongside of us here. Brings a lot of people to town. I think it'll be real good for us.
A quick poll of some of the store's customers showed they felt the same way.
I think it's great. We're from Ohio and they were always open on Sunday.
I think that would be nice because sometimes your person runs out and you have to wait till Monday then.
It's all right, especially for the people that work all the time. It's convenient for them.
There are about 100 grocery stores which will be affected by the new pact. They don't have to stay open on Sundays, but Super One's manager says he believes most will take advantage of the new agreement. Store officials here expect the new hours to be very popular once the customers are aware of them. At Super One, Barbara Riles, TV6 News.
First, what is our legal rights in this matter? Since the mining will take place within the corporate limits of Virginia, I'm trying to sit down with our city attorney, establish what our rights are to object, if in fact the council wants to object to that, what we see as the impacts on the city.
This is the largest building relocation project under the 11-year-old Mineland Cleanup Act. 31 people on the Iron Range have found work because of it. One worker says he'd be laid off at this time of year if his construction company hadn't received the 2-month contract. What they're doing is stripping down the building. Later, it will be reassembled at the Minnesota Army National Guard base at Camp Ripley. The Guard is saving over $400,000 on the cost of building a new structure.
The Pentagon National Guard Bureau looks at this as a real cost savings and also a troop labor project where our National Guard troops get some experience on assembling a building like this, which is going to be finally done down at Camp Ripley.
USX Mining sold the old building for $1 to the National Guard. The DNR official who heads these cleanup projects says many items at other closed mine sites have been recycled too.
I've been working as a director of this program since 1976, and we've been fortunate enough to recycle water pipe off of dumps that the mining companies found no value in. We were able to section it up, and the DNR were to use it along hiking trails in different places, and that probably totaled that and railroad ties somewhere around $50,000 in recycling.
The National Guard will use the building as a maintenance shop. All its lighting and heating systems are included in the material being shipped. This is a situation where everybody wins. That's probably why the 1976 Mineland Cleanup Act has been such a success. Near Chisholm, Lori Kress, TV6 News.
Included. Most of you have a kind of common point of view. You're for cutting military spending.
Know that the defense budget is not going up. As a matter of fact, under the budget compromise, it's coming down. We have 12,000 strategic nuclear warheads, enough to blow up the Soviet Union 40 times over. They have 11,000. But there are serious questions about our conventional defense capability, questions that haven't been answered by the current administration. I don't think it'll be answered tonight by the Republican candidates. Now, the next president's going to have to decide.
$1,395,490. Library.
Further discussion?
Anytime you have the possibility of attracting tourism, if the numbers are factual that we are receiving, we have to take a look at it. I can't say whether or not we would be in favor of or against. Of course, there are certain moral issues here. Some people are in opposition to the Navy ship because it's a symbol of war. Therefore, we have to weigh the positives with the negatives. And
payroll agenda tonight, which is a report from the committee that was appointed to look at this, and I think
they throw it into overtime, and we never get a determined amount that we need to train with, so we cannot plan our training for the year. If they would tell us what we're going to have, we know what we can train with, what we can't train with. We have liability problems to address, concerns training. We have upcoming laws that have to be addressed. Without that amount of money.
And to approve. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
We have several hearings this evening. The first is the public hearing on the adoption.
Students usually can't wait to get a break during the school year. However, such a pleasure could end. Representative Bob McEachern of St. Michael's feels the breaks at Christmas, Easter, and in the springtime are not needed. He is considering introducing a proposal in the state legislature that would force school boards to impose a Labor Day to Memorial Day school year. McEachern feels the educational process is interrupted by the vacations and says teachers waste time by having to repeat curriculum when the students come back. Local officials say the district would consider anything that might prove beneficial to the educational process.
Whenever the state legislature passes any kind of bill and something becomes law, our school district is very cooperative with the state government in meeting their requirements and their demands.
McEachern wants to see a cut in vacation days. He wants parent-teacher conferences held at night and teacher workshops on weekends. He says the long breaks are no longer valid. The breaks were created years ago so that students at boarding schools would have time to return to their families for the holidays. In Duluth, Patty Baker, TV6 News.
Give me a letter saying they're closing up on January 5th, and that was it.
George is just one of about 50 residents at the Lincoln Hotel who has been told he must be out of his room by the beginning of next year. The hotel will close because it's too expensive to bring it up to current fire and safety codes. To do so would mean installing a sprinkler system, which could cost $75,000. Most of the residents don't know where they'll go. It's tough to find a place for under $200 a month in Duluth. Rent at the Lincoln runs from $135 to $185 a month. Many also like the hotel because it's located near grocery stores and other downtown businesses they have to go to. Kathy Hendrickson considers herself one of the lucky ones. The announcement means she's heading west.
I'm going to Oxnard, California to live with Cindy, my daughter. She wants me out there, so I nowhere else to go but there.
George has no relatives in California. He has to fend for himself. He's lived in the Lincoln for 18 years and doesn't like it one bit that he has to move. But he does have some idea where he'll relocate.
I don't know, try another hotel, maybe the Seaway or one of the other places.
Never know.
Who knows?
The manager of the Seaway says he has room for just a few people. Right now, he's 93% filled, mostly with permanent guests. But he expects he'll be hearing from residents at the Lincoln very soon. There is a group of concerned citizens in Duluth exploring alternatives for the residents of the Lincoln Hotel. They'll meet later this week to try to get a better handle on just where these soon-to-be homeless people can go. In downtown Duluth, Julie Howard, TV6 News.
Duluth's port hasn't shown much interest in attracting the World War II vessel, and if the Navy League has to choose between two harbors and Superior, the city acting the quickest would get it. The financial support is already there.
We personally have a fundraising effort, a private fundraising effort that will provide the necessary money for us to restore the vessel and get it operating and so on.
So far, the Navy League has its own $500,000 to bank on. But in two harbors, many groups have already shown support, financial and otherwise. To them, the Newport News means big tourism bucks. In Superior, although some are against attracting a war-related ship, support is building. They already know where the ship could go, Barker's Island. First, though, Mayor Herb Bergson wants to hear what the people have to say.
The council has not reached a decision one way or the other as to whether or not we will actively recruit the Newport News.
The Navy League is giving itself until January 1st to find a home for the ship. After that, it may have to give it back to the Navy. Navy League officials aren't discouraged by the mixed feelings about the Newport News. They know they will find the vessel a home. And if Barker's Island is that home, it could mean as many as 100,000 more tourists will visit the city each year. In Superior, Ann Cavanaugh, TV6 News.
We're having people who are in nursing homes in town, and we're having a Christmas party. They're coming here for the Christmas party. It's a good socialized time for them to come out and be a part of the Christmas holiday and come away from the home and meet here at the Army.
Stands right now or negotiating? I can't speak to that. We've agreed upon in advance that any announcement or statement would be something that would be mutually agreed upon by both the teacher group and the school district and would be done jointly.
The song is entitled Christmas Is. It talks about all the fun we have during the Christmas season with presents and pretty lights, but then reminds us that Christmas is supposed to be a time for loving, giving, and sharing joy. The words ask us to go ahead and enjoy our good fortune, but to share just a little with those not so lucky. The writer of the song says the joy of Christmas serves to remind him of the suffering of the poor, but he says we all should share with the less fortunate year-round.
And not so much even on Christmas Day. It'd be nice if they had food for every day up to Christmas, because there's so little happiness in Christmas for people that don't have the basics met. It's hard to even imagine worrying about Christmas presents when you're not getting a square meal in any days before.
The musicians don't know how popular their song will be, but whatever money sales make will be donated to the food shelves in the areas of those sales. They hope it will sell well, but say there will be a benefit even if it doesn't.
Even if they don't sell any, the fact that we have an opportunity to let people know that there's a problem, and any time you can re-emphasize that and bring light to that there is a problem, is going to be a big help. The money, of course, would be a great help also, but you have to keep supporting and bringing back again that there's a problem out there.
Everybody realize there's boys and girls with lonely hearts. Empty stockings, no blinking lights.
Records and tapes of Christmas Is will be in music stores in our area by tomorrow. Barbara Riles, TV6 News.
A good once-over is what Warren Reich was giving this Norway pine today before deciding whether it should grace his living room for Christmas. Norway pines are a tradition in the Reich family. He, like others, looks for special things in a Christmas tree.
Mostly it has to be about 7 feet tall and full.
Something that smells good in a real tree is much better than an artificial.
This year, there's an abundance of Christmas trees due to a longer growing season. The trees are also larger and fuller.
This is the Scotch pine. This is the Cadillac of Christmas trees, so obviously it's going to cost the most. If you're on a budget, you might be more interested in this. It's a Norway pine. This is the top seller.
This Norway pine here, it's popular because it's common to this area. They grow easily around here. And it is a Norway pine. We have a lot of Norwegians around here. And as the gentleman said, it's a tradition in his family, and it's a tradition in many families around this area.
You can pick up a Norway pine for $3.25 a foot. The spruce and balsam trees range from $3.70 to $3.95 a foot. The Scotch pine comes in at $4.20 a foot. The cost is up about 5% over last year, but that hasn't seemed to bother anyone. This year, live Christmas trees are in, and people are willing to pay whatever it takes to get them.
The process for putting together the budget for the Duluth desegregation program continued tonight. Sitting in on the session was the district's lobbyist, who will have to go to the state legislature to ask for the funding. Preliminary estimates stand at about $2 million for the program's first year. There is a chance, however, the district may not get all of that money. The desegregation project coordinator says it may mean turning to the district for help or changing some plans.
Then we're going to have to probably do some scaling down of the programs that we do offer, not only at Nettleton but district-wide.
Gurnall is optimistic the funding will come through to get the program off the ground and running. The exact amount of funding granted, however, may not be known until the last day of the legislative session. In Duluth, Patty Baker, TV6 News.
Traffic always picks up during the holiday season, and unfortunately, so does the drinking and driving. Today, the Mothers Against Drunk Driving organization kicked off its Red Ribbon campaign. Barbara Stewart is the chairman of the St. Louis County chapter.
I would like all Northlanders to get these red ribbons on their cars, and please buckle your seatbelts, especially in Wisconsin now that the new law has been passed beginning of this week.
The ribbons will be passed out at Burger King and Aladdin's Castle in Duluth. Nick Petronas, who owns the Canal Park Burger King, says he's excited about the campaign.
Because it's always been upsetting to me and a lot of the Burger King people, I'm sure to a lot of other people, that people shouldn't drink and drive, and we wanted to do our own thing locally and nationally.
MAD will be holding a candlelight vigil this Sunday evening at 7:30 at the Coppertop Church in Duluth to remember those killed in drunk driving related accidents. It's also sponsoring an essay poster contest for young people. But its biggest effort this holiday season is the Red Ribbon campaign.
Tying a red ribbon around your aerial won't really do much to prevent drunk driving accidents, but it will show you care during this holiday season. Steve Karsten, TV6 News.
Phil and his girlfriend kiss each other all the time. They've been going out on and off for a year. But they, like all students, are not supposed to kiss on school property, and Phil had been warned repeatedly to cut it out. He didn't and was recently suspended, but his girlfriend was not. School officials say men are typically the aggressors and should take the responsibility. Phil's dad says that attitude is absurd.
He was warned in advance that he wasn't supposed to be kissing any girl in school, and so Mr. Klein was obviously responding appropriately because he was. But then the young lady is certainly equally involved in the whole process, and I think that's reasonable to have involved both of them rather than just the boy.
The town is also buzzing with rumors that the suspension was racially motivated. Phil says he believes his being black and her being white was a factor because he sees other white couples kissing all the time.
I've had many problems around this town too with me going out with white girls, and people don't like that. Every girl I've gone out with, their parents have some kind of disagreement, don't get too serious because he's black, and I think it's the same problem here, same situation. Seeing me kissing a white girl isn't right, and I get suspended.
But the assistant principal, speaking for the principal, who was out of the office, said Phil was suspended not so much for kissing his girlfriend, but for doing so after being repeatedly told not to. And he says it had nothing to do with race.
I know that he would not do this because it was racially motivated. There's no doubt in my mind about that.
Many students in the school felt yesterday's suspension was unfair, and they walked out of class early to protest. But no changes in the school's kissing policy are expected. In Two Harbors, Julie Howard, TV6 News.
We have to rely on foreign flag vessels. At 50-50, we can do business. At 75-25, we lose.
The Port Authority had to pass a special resolution to allow this use of the warehouse. Makers of the movie Far North rented the 100,000 square foot facility to build sets and film some of the scenes for the Sam Shepard film starring Jessica Lange. Board member Bill Beck said before the resolution they could only lease the space to maritime cargo operations. He said they have to be innovative in order to stop the budget hemorrhage.
We have, I think, 100,000 square feet of covered warehouse space down on the waterfront here, and if we can't develop the maritime cargo, then we've got to look at other uses. That's a space that we can turn into money, and we have to do that.
Things are not good for Twin Ports shipping. The port reports a $382,000 loss through October. Beck says revenues are only half what they were last year at this time, and last year they lost $221,000. He said they have to start running the port as a business, looking for ways to bring in more money and spend less. Beck said the board may have to make some unpopular budget cuts and do it quickly, or face consequences that will affect the entire community. Barbara Riles, TV6 News.
Go ahead. If they want that bucket of bolts and they can afford it, take a shot. This Daly doesn't come back to us. There's nothing we can do until he approaches us. And I've been in direct contact with this guy time and time again. And what are you supposed to do? I'm not going to go down wherever he lives in southern Minnesota and take him by the hand and lead him up here, that's for sure. So.
Mice and squirrels getting in there and chew the goddamn insulation off. Yeah. And then maybe fumes or something. They've ruled before.
It's been a long time since Richard Anderson ran the chairlift at Telemark, and though there was only a handful of skiers for him to help today, for him it was just nice to be back at work.
It feels great. It feels really good, and it's good to have something to do in the wintertime. You know, winter times are pretty slow up here, and it feels good to be back to work.
With a little help from technology, Mother Nature came up with the proper ingredients for skiing. General Manager Robert Greenlee says the lodge couldn't afford not to open.
Every other ski area in the Midwest has at least got one run open, and we're ready to go. The people are ready to go. The morale is high, so we felt we had to open the ski hill.
From here, business can only get better, workers say. And everyone is pulling together to prepare for it all. If overnight reservations keep coming in like they have been, the next few weekends will be pretty busy, and it won't be quite so easy to get on the slopes. All the excitement even got the attention of the governor. He'll be here for the grand opening next week. And as for the bad days, well, as one worker put it, hopefully those days are gone. In Cable, Ann Kavanaugh, TV6 News.
The city of Superior is launching a major effort to land the Navy's heavy cruiser Newport News. Duluth was the Navy League's first choice for the vessel, then Two Harbors was in the running. The Duluth City Administration says it listened to the proposals for the ship but was cautious.
It's true we have not embraced it with open arms, but I think we've been responsive to discussing it and meeting with individuals concerned about the Newport News project.
The ship is in bad condition, and an exact price tag for the refurbishing has not been set.
That is one bucket of bolts. That sucker is in such terrible condition it cost you a fortune to make it an attraction.
The City Council and the administration have come under fire for not jumping on the wagon to get the Newport News in Duluth. City Council President M. George Downs says if anyone wants it, go for it.
Go ahead. If they want that bucket of bolts and they can afford it, take a shot.
The condition of the ship and the cost to get it in shape for tourists doesn't sit well with some councilors.
I'm not sure that the feasibility studies have seriously considered what condition it is in. But I'll tell you, from looking at it on the tube last night, you could have brought it up from the bottom of the ocean and had it been in better shape than it is right now.
Brian Allen, TV6 News.
If you lived in Duluth last year at this time, you had a SHARE representative knock on your door. And they'll be doing it again this year. Today, Mayor John Fido declared this weekend SHARE Weekend in the city. That means volunteers will be blanketing the neighborhoods, asking for food and cash.
We need your bag of food, and we'd like to be able to have you put it together for us, canned goods, what have you, in a nice bag, waiting for that volunteer to knock on your door and ask for your help. Likewise, we'd also like to have some volunteers.
SHARE Weekend will begin at 9 o'clock Saturday morning at the Labor Center in Duluth. Today, Fido was joined by George Sundstrom, who represents the labor community, and Donna Effinger of the Duluth Food Shelf, who mentioned the number of families who have been able to make it on their own after help from the food shelf.
We see the food shelf as an emergency thing to tide you through the tough spots. For some people, those tough spots come more often than others, but we do consider ourselves an emergency service. To have 1,500 clients, families, singles no longer coming to us is a real positive thing.
Last year, Project SHARE raised about 40,000 pounds of food, all of which went to families in Duluth. If volunteers don't get the job done Saturday, they'll be back out Sunday afternoon at 1. They'll be wearing identification and advise residents to ask for it if they don't see it. In Duluth, Paul Moore, TV6 News.
I'm going to have a candlelight vigil at 7:30 p.m. Sunday at the United Methodist Church on the Skyline in remembrance of the ones of victims who have passed away.
It's a cooperative effort. We do have products contributed to us. We got Bob Collette, who's a professional outdoors.
So many times the handicapped people, they're shut out, for example, of really partaking in some of the outdoor beauty that abounds in this area. It is with this joint endeavor that I feel that the barriers of distrust and misconception will be broken, and we would like to reaffirm and shore up our good relationship with the surrounding area. Right is Alfred Trepania, Secretary-Treasurer of the Coterie Tribal Governing Board, and Mr. Donnie Carley, our Tribal Games Manager.
Well, I don't know that it's necessarily a site for the jail. It's just one more option that probably could be added because of the availability of the hotel and with its closing down.
Calls have flooded into this station inquiring about a program entitled Ollie North's Fight for Freedom. The show was temporarily canceled because of a golf game last Sunday, but will be aired December 12th. The program self-proclaims itself a documentary. The group sponsoring it says Oliver North is a new American hero.
Get off his back.
The slideshow will not be seen by the people of the United States.
Now it will be seen. The things you didn't see on television or read about in the newspapers.
I would simply like to thank the American people, and I salute them.
But the intent of the show is to raise money.
It's an expensive battle to get this message to the public. For a $10 donation, I'll send you a photograph of Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North being sworn in before the Congress of the United States. This is an amazing piece of American history, and you can have the actual framed photograph.
The American Freedom Coalition uses the money to buy more advertisements. Its goal is to expose communism throughout the world. No word is out on when Oliver North will be indicted, if at all, for crimes suspected of being committed in the Iran-Contra affair. Now, a show like this isn't scheduled by the networks. Instead, a national distributor for advertisements is handling it. The conservative group hopes to get its show on 200 local TV stations by Christmas time, at an average cost of about $3,000 an hour. Paying for television airtime isn't new. As long as you have money to spend, you can pay to have your message broadcast over the airwaves.
A political debate, for instance, the Women League of Voters buys the time. They're the ones who sponsor that particular program.
But this isn't a debate. Whether you agree with the message or not, the freedom fighter Ollie North cause is using the local TV medium to advertise a one-sided political opinion. Lori Kress, TV6 News.
It may be the kind of thing some people have known intuitively, and researchers are now showing it in relation to the cancer survival rate. Marriage can be very good for your health.
We found was that being married had the same effect on survival as being 10 years younger.
The higher survival rate that Dr. Goodwin is reporting showed up in cancer victims in New Mexico over the last 20 years. Not each cancer victim who had a spouse necessarily lived longer, but the data shows an overall trend that married cancer victims were diagnosed at an earlier stage of the disease, were treated more aggressively, and did live longer than unmarried cancer patients. Researchers give two possible reasons for the difference. One, the higher economic status of married people, and two, the built-in social interaction.
Marriage provides social support, and there's a considerable literature showing that social support somehow buffers the stresses of life. And given a stress in life, having social support results in less effect than on that individual.
While not suggesting people run off and get married to protect their health, Dr. Goodwin said
meeting is an afterthought. This year, those organizing emergency police efforts want to be prepared.
We weren't prepared for some of the crowds that developed at the spearing sites. Hopefully this year we can be more prepared.
Last year, riots broke out. Anti-treaty activists forced police to block roads. Boat landings were crowded with protesters on both sides of the issue. Indians just want to keep their rights. Others think they shouldn't have them. As a result, mutual aid is needed.
Mutual aid is a pact that all law enforcement officers get together and work together in any crisis situation.
Frederick says he and other members of Emergency Police Service have reason to believe this year the situation may be even worse.
During the past several months, there's been a great deal of controversy about the spearing issue. Because of that controversy that has developed, we feel the potential for problems is greater this year than what it has been in the past.
Today's meeting prepared law enforcement officials not only for potential problems during the spearfishing season, it also prepared them for any situation in northern Wisconsin that may require mutual aid. In Ashland, Ann Cavanaugh, TV6 News.
It's a bad time of year for it to happen. Any time of year is not good, but particularly this time of year. And I think everybody is sort of mulling over in their mind what this means to them on an individual basis. Certainly, in some regards, we do our projections based on seniority, so a lot of the people on the lower end of the seniority list know that they're probably targeted if, in fact, the cuts become a reality. Through my safety director, that received a call from the attorney's office as we heard that it was denied. It's kind of
3,500 school kids in the Duluth secondary system ride a regular transit bus instead of a school bus. The district has this contract with the DTA because it saves money and provides flexibility in allowing kids to stay after school for extracurricular activities. The DTA modifies its regular routes to allow the buses to pick up students at the front doors of their school. But the Supreme Court says that's still not safe enough because transit buses don't have stop arms nor flashing lights.
We have, through working with the DTA, developed what we feel to be an extremely safe situation for our students. The buses pull up in front of the schools. The kids don't have to go out and cross a busy high street to get to a bus stop. They pull up right in front of the school. They drop the kids off right in front of the school.
School officials say it will cost almost $1 million to put those 3,500 kids on school buses, and if forced to do that, will take more than 3 months to get a new contract and bring enough school buses to Duluth to handle the new students. It will also force the district to stop providing free rides for students who stay after school. The district plans to appeal to the legislature for help when it reconvenes, and a meeting is scheduled on Monday with the State Department of Transportation. Officials hope to stall implementation of the decision until after the legislature has a chance to reconsider the law. Barbara Riles, TV6 News.
The judges have admitted to us that what has been done in the past has not worked. And therefore, if something isn't working and there are some alternatives, why not try an alternative?
No, not yet. I haven't.
Marty is just one of about 55 residents of the Lincoln Hotel who doesn't know where she'll go when the 5th of January rolls around. She and the others must move out of the building because it's being closed down. The YWCA is one place some people have inquired about since getting their eviction notices.
We've had some people from the Lincoln come over and apply because they want to stay in the downtown area. This downtown is their home, and it's convenient to where they get groceries or other services they use in the downtown. So we've had people walk over and apply.
The Y has room for just 15 people. Most of the rooms are for women only. Each person must fill out an application. If they have any problem which would cause them to disrupt the other 75 residents, they will likely be refused. Tom Martin is the spokesperson for an ad hoc committee that is trying to help those who haven't taken their own initiative to find new housing. That committee had its first meeting today.
Just to get the interested agencies, people who can respond to what the needs of the residents are, get them together, talk about what might happen, what probably will happen, what kind of responses we can develop for that.
So far, only 40 low-income units are known to exist in downtown Duluth. Right now, that leaves at least 10 people out in the cold. It's hoped it won't really leave them out in the cold in January. Julie Howard, TV6 News.
The Regional Rail Authority, however, would have to negotiate a track usage permit with the Burlington Northern Railroad. The BN will own this short piece of trackage. They are going to be purchasing an easement from the state of Minnesota because currently that rail, the old rail right-of-way, is on highway right-of-way right now. That was originally purchased for the building of I-35. Essentially what happened.
Can I just...
And those trains, of course, will come in out of the new switching area. I brought you a copy of the article that talks about what happened here to allow the I-35 project to be.
It began early last spring. Low rainfall and high winds combined to touch off dozens of fires, the worst near Park Falls. It would go on to become a busy summer for firefighters. The Brule District reported 4 times as many fires as usual. Rangers say only the use of helicopters, a first for northwestern Wisconsin, saved disaster. But the condition which resulted in all these fires, a lack of rainfall, has continued, and forestry officials are afraid the fire crisis will return in the spring.
If we have snowfall similar to last year, we are looking at probably one of the driest springs on record, and we expect it to be hot, and they'll have a lot of fires again.
DNR records show precipitation at its lowest in 60 years since the state began keeping records. Not only are the forests suffering, but farmers in southern Douglas County and the counties to the south and east are still short on hay, even though hundreds of thousands of bales have been shipped in from the south. The region was 6.5 inches short on precipitation when the summer began. That's now up to 9.5, with the potential for serious problems just a few months away. Dave Jench, TV6 News.